no entanglements. Jax Rourke had 3 rules. No debts, no passengers, no politics. He had painted them on the inside bulkhead of his ship, right above the coffee heater, so he could look at them every morning while drinking something black, bitter, and only technically legal under 6 trade codes. The ship was called the Mule. Not Star Dancer, not Void Fire, not Destiny's Wing. Just Mule. It was old, ugly, stubborn, and could haul 3 times what its registration papers claimed. Jax liked honest names. He was unloading machine parts on Dock 12 of Varric Station when he first saw the princess. At the time, he did not know she was a princess. That would come later and ruin his week. All he saw was a young alien woman in a pale traveling cloak, too clean for the dock levels, too curious for her own safety, and too alone by half. She was tall, fine-boned, and silver-skinned, with large dark eyes and a sweep of soft blue-white hair braided over one shoulder. Her species had the irritating habit of looking like they had been designed by poets with government funding. She stood near a spice kiosk, smiling politely at 3 dockside bruisers who had arranged themselves around her like a cage. Jack sighed. He could already feel trouble forming. The largest thug was a Quran, all muscle plates and tusks, wearing a sleeveless vest with a shock baton hanging from his belt. His 2 friends were leaner, meaner, and carried themselves with the loose confidence of men who had hurt people for money and enjoyed the discount. The girl said something. The Quran laughed. Jack set down the crate he was carrying. No, he muttered to himself. The Quran reached for the girl's wrist. Jax rubbed both hands over his face. No, no, no. The girl twisted away, but she was boxed in. Her smile vanished. She looked around, clearly expecting someone official to intervene. That was her first mistake. Dock 12 had officials. They were excellent at arriving after things were over. Jax walked over. He did not hurry. Hurrying made a man look emotional. Jax preferred to look like weather, inevitable and unpleasant. Let her go, he said. The Quran turned. His eyes lowered to Jax's boots, rose to his patched jacket, paused at the gray in his beard, and settled on the scar that cut through one eyebrow. Then he smiled. Human, he said, like it was a punchline. Yeah, Jax said. This does not concern you. Correct. The Quran blinked. Jax jerked a thumb over his shoulder. My ship's over there. My cargo is over there. My coffee is cooling over there. Everything I care about is over there. So I'd appreciate it if you'd stop making this my problem. The alien woman stared at him, fascinated. One of the smaller thugs snickered. Old ape thinks he's security. Jax looked at him. You. Teeth. The thug frowned. What? You've got a lot of them. Try to keep it that way. The Quran's hand dropped to the shock baton. Jax hit him first. It was not elegant. It was not honorable. It was not the flowing martial art of the inner systems, where warriors wore silk and bowed before attempting murder. Jax stepped in and drove the heel of his palm into the Quran's throat. The Quran made a wet barking noise and folded forward. Jax took the shock baton off his belt, thumbed it on, and slammed it into the knee of the thug on the left. The thug screamed, dropped, and received a steel-toed boot in the ribs for his trouble. The third wanted a knife. The alien woman gasped. Jax threw the baton at the thug's face. The thug ducked. Jax did not. He grabbed the man's wrist, slammed it into the spice kiosk, and broke something that made a crisp little sound. The knife clattered onto the deck. Jax picked up the thug by his collar and belt, turned, and threw him into the Quran, who had just managed to start breathing again. Both went down in a heap. The whole fight lasted 9 seconds. The spice vendor, who had wisely hidden behind a crate of saffron pods, slowly raised both hands and applauded once. Jax turned to the alien woman. You hurt. She stared at him with wide eyes. That, she said, was extraordinarily direct. Wasn't a dance. You struck first. Sure did. But he had not yet attacked you. He was thinking about it. You can tell. Jax picked up his crate again. I'm old. She followed him. Of course she followed him. Wait, she said. No. I have not yet asked anything. You're about to. You saved me. Don't make it weird. I am in your debt. No, you are not. My people take debts very seriously. Then take this seriously. You don't owe me anything. She hurried to keep up with him, which was hard because he walked like a man trying to leave a burning building before anyone noticed he had helped start the fire. My name is Alira. Bad idea. She frowned. My name. Telling it to strangers. You are not a stranger. You are my rescuer. I'm a hauler who got annoyed. I am Princess Alira Vale of the Luminera Accord. Jack stopped walking. Slowly, very slowly, he turned to face her. A docking crane groaned somewhere overhead. Steam hissed from a vent. Dock workers pretended very hard not to listen. Jack stared at her. She smiled brightly. Princess, he repeated. Yes. As in royalty. Yes. As in politics with jewelry. Her smile faltered. That is not entirely inaccurate. Jax looked toward the ceiling, as if asking the universe why it kept doing this to him. Then he pointed down the dock. See that corridor? Yes. Walk down it. All right. Turn left at the customs office. Yes. Find station security. She tilted her head. And then become their problem. He picked up his crate again. She followed him again. I cannot. Sure you can. Feet work fine. I cannot go to station security. They are compromised. Jax kept walking. The men who threatened me were not random criminals, she continued. They were agents of Duke Maroth, or at least hired by him, probably through an intermediary. He has been using shell guilds to create plausible deniability. Jack said nothing. She brightened slightly. I have evidence. Burn it. What? Evidence causes meetings. Meetings cause committees. Committees cause assassins. Burn it. You do not even know what the evidence concerns. Don't need to. It concerns the planned overthrow of my mother's throne and the sale of 3 border colonies to the Varkesh combined. Jack stopped again. His jaw tightened. Alira noticed. You know the Varkesh. Everyone knows the Varkesh. Then you understand why I must reach the Accord Embassy. Good. Do that. The embassy is on the upper ring. Elevators exist. The elevators are monitored. Stairs. Also monitored. Vent shafts. She blinked. That is not a normal suggestion for a princess. Having a normal day, are you? Before she could answer, a sharp metallic chime echoed through Dock 12. The lighting shifted from white to amber. A station announcement crackled overhead. Attention! Temporary security lockdown in effect. All vessels are to remain docked pending inspection. Repeat, all vessels are to remain docked pending inspection. Jax closed his eyes. Alira looked concerned. Is that bad? That, Jax said, is a net. For me? He looked at her. She winced. Probably for me. From afar, into the dock, came the sound of armored boots. Not dock thugs this time. Professionals. Jax looked at the princess. Then, at his ship. Then at the words painted in his mind like scripture. No debts. No passengers. No politics. He growled. Inside. Alira blinked. Inside where? My ship. But you said, move. She moved. The mule was even uglier inside than out. Its corridors were narrow, its panels mismatched, and half the labels were written in marker. It smelled of oil, hot metal, coffee, and old socks. Alira stepped through the airlock with the careful expression of someone entering a sacred ruin or a public restroom. Jax shoved the crate after her, sealed the hatch, and slapped the comm. Varric Control, this is Independent Hauler Mule, Registry HN 77-4. Request departure clearance. The reply came instantly. Negative Mule, lockdown in effect. Cargo's perishable. Your manifest lists ceramic pump housings. They're emotionally perishable. Remain docked. Jax cut the channel. Alira watched him from the corridor. Can your ship outrun station security? No. Can it fight? No. Does it have stealth systems? Jax snorted. It has a transponder that lies when I kick it. Then how do we leave? We don't. She stared. Jax opened a floor panel and began pulling out tools. Then why did you bring me aboard? Because they expected me to run. From outside came the muffled clang of boots on the boarding ramp. Alira lowered her voice. You have a plan? Yes. What is it? Be unpleasant. The boarding hatch boomed. Opened by authority of Varric Station Security. Jax picked up a wrench the size of a femur. Alira stepped back. That is your plan? Part of it. The hatch boomed again. Jax shouted, 1 second. I'm indecent. There was a pause. Alira whispered, Are you? No. He crossed to a side panel, yanked 2 wires loose, and touched them together. Sparks snapped. Somewhere beneath the deck, a pump shrieked. A red warning light began flashing. Alira's eyes widened. What did you do? made the ship incontinent. A pipe burst over the boarding hatch, spraying a foul brown coolant foam all over the security team outside. The comm exploded with shouting. Jax opened the hatch. A helmeted officer stood there dripping sludge. Jax leaned out. "You boys here for the sewage leak?" The officer gagged. "What is that smell?" "Probably illegal in 3 systems. We are searching for a fugitive female, Luminera." "Great. You see one. Tell her she owes me for a hatch cleaning." The officer tried to peer around him. Jax shifted his body into the opening. The officer looked up at him. Jax was not the largest human ever born, but he had shoulders like a loading dock and the expression of a man who considered biting a valid debate tactic. "We need to inspect your vessel." "No. This is a security matter. This is my home. Stand aside." Jax leaned closer. "You got a warrant?" The officer hesitated. Jax smiled without warmth. "Didn't think so. We can obtain one." "Do that." The officer's jaw worked. Behind him, 2 others tried to wipe coolant off their visors. Jax added, "Bring a mop." He shut the hatch. Elira, who had flattened herself inside an open maintenance locker, slowly emerged. "That was very brave. That was paperwork. Bravery is for people with cleaner ships. Will they return with a warrant?" "Probably." "What then?" "Then we leave." But they denied clearance. Jax walked toward the cockpit. "Clearance is a conversation." The mule woke with a grumble. Engines coughed, caught, and shook the deck beneath them. Elira strapped herself into the co-pilot's seat after only 3 failed attempts. She studied the cockpit with obvious interest. "This vessel is old. Careful. She's sensitive. This panel is held on with tape. Structural tape. This gauge has no needle." Needle was pessimistic. "Removed it." Outside the viewport, amber lights flashed along the dock. A security skiff drifted into position near the bay exit. Elira leaned forward. "They are blocking us." Jax tapped the comm. "Varric Control, this is Mule. We have a hazardous leak and must immediately clear dock for emergency venting." Control answered, "Negative, Mule. Remain." Jax flipped a switch. The ship's external vents belched a huge brown cloud across Dock 12. The security skiff vanished in it. Control shouted, "What are you venting?" "Regret," Jax said and punched the engines. The mule tore out of dock like a brick thrown by an angry god. Alarm screamed. Dock clamp sparked. A cargo tether snapped behind them and whipped across the bay. The skiff spun sideways, blind and cursing. The mule scraped its belly across the exit shield, cleared the station by 6 meters, and lurched into open space. Elira clutched the armrests. "Is this normal flight?" "No." The station shrank behind them. Then 3 pursuit craft launched. Jax checked the scanner. "Bad news." Elira swallowed. "What is it?" "They're faster." "And the good news?" "They're probably overconfident." "That is not good news. It is when I'm driving." The pursuit craft came in a clean triangular formation, sleek and black, all military polish and expensive intent. The mule lumbered toward the asteroid belt beyond Varric Station. Elira looked from the screen to Jax. "They are gaining." "Yup." "Should we surrender?" "Nope." "Can we negotiate?" "Nope." "Do humans have more words than that?" "Unfortunately." Laser fire stitched past the viewport. The mule dove into the asteroid field. Elira made a small sound that tried very hard to be dignified. Jax flew with both hands on the controls, jaw set, eyes calm. The old hauler rolled between tumbling rocks, scraped past iron cliffs, and plunged through clouds of dust. Behind them, the sleeker ships followed. One clipped an asteroid and spun off trailing fire. Elira gasped. They crashed. Space has rocks. Another pursuer fired. The shot hit the mule's rear shields. The cockpit lights flickered. Jax muttered something unkind about the pilot's ancestry. Elira leaned over the scanner. "There is a dense cluster ahead. Too narrow. For them. For us also. Princess, this ship has been through 3 wars, 2 divorces, and 1 tax audit. She can handle narrow." The mule turned sideways. Elira stared. "Why are we sideways?" "Because upright is a suggestion." They slipped between 2 massive asteroids with meters to spare. The remaining pursuers tried to follow. One broke off. The last kept coming. Jax watched the scanner. Stubborn. Can we lose him? No. Can we disable him? Maybe. Ow. Jax reached above his head and flipped open a cracked plastic cover labeled, "Do not." Elira gripped her seat. What does that switch do? Drops cargo. But your cargo is pump housings. Ceramic pump housings. He hit the switch. Behind them, 24 heavy ceramic housings burst for the cargo bay and scattered like mines. The pursuing craft flew straight into them. Its shields flared, overloaded, and died. The craft spun away, venting atmosphere. Elira stared in horror. Did you kill them? Jax checked the scanner. Escape pods launched. She exhaled. He glanced at her. I'm gruff, not sloppy. For several minutes, they flew in silence. Then the mule cleared the asteroid field and vanished into jump. The stars stretched. Reality folded. And Princess Elira Vale, heir to the Luminera Accord, looked at Jax Rourke with something dangerously close to admiration. Jax hated that look. He pointed at her. No. She blinked innocently. No what? Whatever you're thinking. I was thinking you are a remarkable man. Definitely no. You saved my life. Temporary arrangement. You fought criminals, defied corrupt officials, escaped a station blockade, and outmaneuvered 3 military-grade pursuit craft in an obsolete cargo vessel. 2 of those were luck. Which 2? He thought about it. Doesn't matter. She smiled. Jax stood. Rules. Rules. He pointed to the painted words above the coffee heater. No debts. No passengers. No politics. Elira read them carefully. Then she looked at him. You have broken all 3. I am aware. Do humans often violate their own principles? Only when other people make it necessary. That sounds inconvenient. It is. She unfastened her harness and stood, smoothing her cloak. Then I will try to be minimally inconvenient. Jax gave her a look. She smiled again. Moderately inconvenient. He walked out of the cockpit. Over the next 2 days, Jax discovered several things about Princess Elira. First, she was not stupid. Naive, yes. Sheltered, absolutely. She had once believed pirate clans could be rehabilitated through trade incentives and sincere dialogue. She had also assumed black market meant a market that operated at night. But she learned fast. Give her a system diagram once, and she understood it. Explain a smuggling route, and she could identify the 3 most likely interception points. Show her how dock gangs marked prey, and she could reconstruct the entire hierarchy from posture, tattoos, and who looked away first. Second, she was charming in a way that made people want to disappoint her less. This was intolerable. By the second day, she had convinced the ship's galley printer to produce something almost edible. By the third, she had fixed the broken translation module in Jax's cargo manifest reader. By the fourth, she had organized the spare parts. Jax stood in the engine room doorway, staring at rows of labeled bins. What did you do? I sorted them. They were sorted. They were in a bucket labeled maybe. That's a category. It is a cry for help. He grunted and walked away. Later, he found her in the cockpit studying navigation charts. You should sleep, he said. So should you. I'm human. That is not an explanation. It usually is. She turned from the screen. In the dim cockpit light, she seemed less like a princess and more like a young woman very far from home. Jax, she said softly, why are you helping me? I'm taking you to the embassy on Cadron Prime. That's not helping. That's delivery. You lost your cargo. Bad cargo. You risked your ship. She needed exercise. You risked your life. He looked at her. Those men were going to take you. Yes. I don't like that. Because I am royalty? No. Because I am politically important? No. Because I am useful? No. She studied him. Then why? Jax looked out at the streaking stars. Because you said no. Elira said nothing. Jax shifted, uncomfortable with the silence. Where I come from, he said, that's supposed to matter. Her expression changed. Not pity, not admiration. Understanding. That is a good law, she said. It's not a law. No. No. Laws are what people write down after decent folk already know better. She smiled faintly. Your people are strange. Frequently. My tutors said humans are aggressive. Sometimes. Primitive. Depends on the human. Dangerous. Jax snorted. Your tutors got one right. They did not say kind. He had no answer for that. The mule dropped out of jump near Cadron Prime 6 hours later. The embassy was still there. That was the first bad sign. Jax had expected lights, docking beacons, patrol traffic, bored diplomats complaining over comms. Instead, the Luminera diplomatic station drifted silent and dark above the planet, its silver towers unlit, its docking arms extended like the fingers of a corpse. Elira stood beside him in the cockpit, one hand braced against the console. "That is wrong," she whispered. Jax studied the scanner. "No life signs near the outer docks," he said. "That cannot be. Doesn't mean empty. Means shielded, hidden, or dead." She swallowed. The comm crackled. A voice came through, smooth and familiar enough to make Elira go rigid. "Princess Elira Vale. Welcome home." Jax glanced at her. She said one word. "Maroth." The voice continued. "I'm so relieved you survived. Please dock at Bay 3. Your mother awaits you." Jax muted the channel. He sounded like a man who salts his food with lies. Elira's face was pale silver in the cockpit light. "My mother would have opened the channel herself." "Yeah. So this is a trap." "Yeah. We should leave." Jax looked at the dead embassy. Then at her. "You got people in there?" Her jaw tightened. "Loyalists. Servants. Guards. My mother, perhaps." "Then we're not leaving." She stared at him. "You just said it was a trap." "Correct. And you hate traps." "No. I hate being surprised by traps." He unbuckled his harness and stood. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Springing it." Bay 3 accepted them without resistance. That was the second bad sign. The docking tunnel was dark, too quiet, and smelled faintly of burned circuitry. Jack stepped through first with a cutter bar in one hand and a compact coil pistol in the other. Elira followed close behind, wearing a light-pressure cloak and carrying a ceremonial sidearm she plainly disliked. Jax noticed. "Ever use that? In practice?" "On what?" "Targets. Targets don't scream." She looked at him sharply. He shrugged. "Better to know that now." They moved through the embassy corridors. The place had been beautiful once. Pale stone, silver inlays, glass panels etched with constellations. Now banners hung torn. Light fixtures sparked. A statue of Elira's grandmother lay broken across the floor, its face split in half. Elira knelt beside it. Jax kept watch. "Later," he said. She stood. "Yes." They reached the Hall of Accord, a great circular chamber lined with balconies and diplomatic seals from 100 worlds. At the center of the floor stood Duke Maroth. He wore black court armor under a velvet cloak, one hand resting on the pommel of a curved blade. Around him waited a dozen armored soldiers. Not dock thugs, not raiders, royal household guard, traitors. Behind them, bound and kneeling, were 6 Luminera loyalists. And on the throne dais sat Elira's mother. Alive, wounded, chained. Elira took one step forward. Jax caught her arm. "Don't." Maroth smiled. "Captain Rourke, I confess I expected something larger. A warship, a mercenary company, perhaps a human battle pack." "Just me," Jax said. "How disappointing." "People say that." Maroth's eyes shifted to Elira. "My dear princess, you have caused such disorder." Elira lifted her chin. "You betrayed my mother. I preserved the Accord. You sold colonies. I purchased survival. You murdered loyalists. I removed sentimental obstacles." Jax sighed. Everyone looked at him. He rolled his shoulders. "Are we about done with the villain's speech?" Maroth's smile thinned. "You are a crude animal. Sure, you stand in a royal hall. Not impressed. You are surrounded. Noticed. You have no leverage." Jax looked around the chamber. Balconies. Columns. Bad lighting. Too many men with swords. No clear exit. Then he smiled. Elira had seen that smile before. It made her nervous. Jax said, "Princess, remember Dock 12? "Yes." "Same plan." Maroth frowned. "What plan?" Jax shot the chandelier. The massive crystal fixture crashed down into the center of the hall, exploding in a storm of glass, sparks, and shrieking metal. Jax moved before it hit. He drove his shoulder into the nearest guard, smashing the man backward into two others. Elira darted left, quick and low, cutting toward the prisoners. A guard lunged at her. Jax threw the cutter bar. It hit the guard in the helmet with a sound like a bell being murdered. The guard dropped. "Move!" Jax barked. Elira moved. Mayor Roth shouted orders, but the chamber had become chaos. Smoke poured from the shattered fixture. Lights flickered. Loyalists scrambled away as Elira slashed their bonds with a fallen blade. Two guards rushed Jax together. He shot one in the knee. The other swung a shock sword at his head. Jax ducked under it, stepped inside the man's reach, and slammed his forehead into the guard's faceplate. The faceplate cracked. So did something inside it. The guard staggered. Jax took his sword arm, twisted hard, and drove him face first into a column. A third guard came from behind. Elira saw him first. "Jax!" He turned too late. The guard's blade cut across his ribs. Jax grunted, caught the man's wrist, and looked down at the wound. Then he looked at the guard. "That was my good jacket." He punched the guard in the throat. Once. Twice. The guard folded. Across the hall, Elira had freed the prisoners. One of them, an older Luminera officer with blood on his face, seized a fallen spear and joined the fight. Mayor Roth drew his blade. It hummed with pale blue energy. "Enough." He moved toward Elira. Jax stepped into his path. Mayor Roth laughed softly. "You think you are her champion?" "No." "Then what are you?" Jax wiped blood from his side. Annoyed, Mayor Roth attacked. He was fast. Too fast for a noble who had spent his life behind polished tables. His blade came in clean arcs, elegant and practiced. Jax gave ground, barely avoiding the first cut, catching the second on a stolen guard's bracer. Sparks sprayed across his sleeve. Mayor Roth smiled. "You see? Civilization has advantages." Jax kicked a broken chair into his legs. Mayor Roth stumbled. Jax hit him in the mouth. Mayor Roth staggered back, shocked. Jax said, "So does furniture." The Duke spat silver blood. His expression changed. No more courtly amusement. Now hatred. He came in harder. Jax blocked one strike, took another across the shoulder, and slammed Mayor Roth into a column. They grappled there, blade trapped between them, both straining. Mayor Roth hissed, "You should have stayed a hauler." "Been saying that all week." Mayor Roth twisted free and drove a knee into Jax's ribs. Jax felt something crack. He dropped to one knee. Elira cried out. Mayor Roth raised his blade. Then Elira hit him from behind. Not with a gun. Not with a royal command. With both hands wrapped around a fallen shock baton. The baton cracked against Meritha's back. Energy crawled across his armor. He screamed and turned on her. Elira swung again. He caught the baton and tore it from her grip. "You foolish child," he snarled. Elira stood her ground, breathing hard. "I said no." Mayor Roth froze. Jax looked up. Elira's voice strengthened. "No to you. No to your fear. No to your bargain. No to every coward who calls surrender wisdom." Mayor Roth lunged. Jax tackled him from the side. They hit the floor hard. The blades skittered away. Now, there was no elegance. No court. No speeches. Just two men on broken glass, fighting like animals. Mayor Roth clawed for Jax's eyes. Jax drove an elbow into his jaw. Mayor Roth slammed a fist into Jax's wounded ribs. Jax snarled and headbutted him. Mayor Roth grabbed a shard of crystal and drove it toward Jax's neck. Elira kicked it from his hand. Mayor Roth seized her ankle. She went down. Jax grabbed the Duke by the collar, hauled him upward, and threw him bodily into the base of the throne dais. Mayor Roth tried to rise. The Queen's chains rattled. Weak, wounded, but still royal, she lifted one bound hand and pressed a hidden control beneath the arm of the throne. The floor beneath Mayor Roth flashed. A containment field snapped around him. He struck it, screaming. Jax stood over him, chest heaving, blood running down his side. Mayor Roth glared through the shimmering field. "You cannot stop what has begun." Jax looked at Elira, then at the Queen, then back at Mayor Roth. "No," he said, "but we can start by stopping you." The last of Meritha's soldiers dropped their weapons. For a long moment, the Hall of Accord was silent except for sparks, breathing, and the soft crackle of the containment field. Elira ran to her mother. The Queen reached for her with shaking hands. "My daughter." Elira fell to her knees and embraced her. Jax looked away. Royal family moments were none of his business. One of the freed loyalists approached him. "Captain Rourke," the officer said, "the Accord owes you a debt." Jax grimaced. "No, it doesn't." The officer looked confused. Jax pointed at Maroth. "Bill him." Elira laughed through tears. The sound filled the ruined hall. And Jax, bleeding in 3 places and standing in a room full of nobles, realized with deep personal irritation that he was probably not leaving anytime soon. The queen herself, pale and wounded but upright, received him in a chamber carved from blue ice. "You saved my daughter," she said. Jax stood with his hands in his jacket pockets. "She saved herself plenty. She tells me you taught her human tactics." "Sorry." The queen studied him. "You could ask for anything." "No." "A title." "No." "Land." "No." "Wealth." Jax hesitated. Elira, standing beside her mother, smiled. Jax glared at her. "No," he said, with effort. The queen's expression softened. "Then what do you want, Captain Rourke?" "My cargo reimbursed. My ship repaired. Fuel. Fresh coffee. Then I leave." Elira's smile faded a little. The queen looked between them. "I see." Jax hated the way she said it. An hour later, he was back aboard the mule, checking repair crews and making sure nobody replaced his obsolete systems with anything too smart to trust. Elira found him in the engine room. She wore simple white armor now, light and ceremonial, with a cloak fastened at one shoulder. She looked less naive than she had on Dock 12. That was good, and a little sad. "You are really leaving?" she said. "Yes. My mother wishes to appoint you military advisor." "Terrible idea. I told her you would say that." "Smart girl. She also wishes to make you a lord." "Worse idea." "I told her that too." Jax tightened a bolt. Elira stepped closer. "I wish you would stay." He stopped working. There it was. The entanglement. The trouble. The thing he had spent years avoiding. He looked at the painted rules on the bulkhead. No debts. No passengers. No politics. The words had seemed sturdy once. Now, they looked like something a lonely man wrote to convince himself he was wise. "Elira," he said, "I'm not court material." "No, I don't about right. I noticed. I insult people. Frequently. I don't understand diplomacy. You understand people. I'm tired." Her expression softened. "I know." He looked away first. "I can't fix your kingdom." "No," she said, "but you can teach us how not to lose it." Jax barked a humorless laugh. "Princess, humans mostly learn by touching hot things and telling the next generation not to do that." "Yes," Elira said, "that is exactly the kind of wisdom we lack." He looked at her. She was serious. Of course she was. He rubbed a hand over his beard. "I hate politics." "I know. I hate nobles. I'm technically several nobles." "I noticed. I will try to be minimally noble." "Moderately noble?" She smiled. "Only when necessary." Jack sighed so deeply the engine room seemed to dim around him. Then he picked up a rag and wiped his hands. "One condition." Elira straightened. "Name it." "No throne rooms before coffee." "Done." "No medals." "I can negotiate that." "No speeches." "That may be difficult." "And nobody calls me Lord Rourke." "What should they call you?" "Jax." She nodded solemnly. "Advisor Jax." "No." "Captain Jax." "No." "Grumpy Jax." He pointed at her. "Careful." She smiled, and there was the charming girl from Dock 12 again. But there was steel under it now. Good. The mule stayed. Not because Jax liked politics. Not because he wanted glory. Not because he believed in crowns, bloodlines, or shining speeches about destiny. He stayed because a smart, naive, charming princess had said no to thugs, no to traitors, and no to fear. And where Jax came from, that was supposed to matter. 6 months later, when the first human volunteer ships arrived to help defend the Luminaire border colonies, the galaxy began to understand what the Varkesh had learned too late. Humans were not the strongest species, not the fastest, not the oldest, not the most elegant, enlightened, or advanced. But when they decided someone was under their protection, they became a very particular kind of problem. The stubborn kind, the ugly kind, the kind that did not go away just because the odds were bad, Princess Illyria would one day become Queen Illyria the Restorer. Her reign would be remembered for justice, reform, and the alliance that changed the balance of known space. But in her private journals, she wrote only this about the beginning. I was alone on a station full of enemies. Freeman thought kindness made me weak. Then a human came along and proved that kindness, when properly angered, is terrifying. Jax claimed he never read that line. Illyria knew he had, because afterward, he painted a fourth rule above the coffee heater. No debts, no passengers, no politics. Princess is okay.